This episode is proudly brought to you by Lululemon. Athleisure brand Lululemon and Movember proudly unite for the third year of their partnership to improve men's well-being through movement, mindfulness and connection. Check out Lululemon's Movember product collection at lululemon.com.au.
Child, that your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place? Under cover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking. Under
Welcome to episode 263 of the Inside Running podcast. It hasn't been a huge week in terms of running results, but there's still plenty for us to discuss. We'll be reviewing some Lululemon gear, and Jess Stenson, who finished 9th at last week's New York Marathon, is here as host and to recap her race and New York experience. But before we get to Jess, I'm joined by Julian Spence. For those that aren't familiar with Julian, he's the Bogan to Hotham record holder and second in command at the running company Geelong. Welcome back, Moose. How you going?
I'm going good, thank you, mate. I reckon I've taken over first place at the running company Geelong these days.
Really?
I would agree at Ballarat I was number 2, but in Geelong I reckon I'm maybe 3 or 4, because there is a good team in there now, and I just sit back and watch it happen. Nice.
And how was annual leave?
Well, it was good. It was good to we went over to WA. So my sister lives there, Margaret River. I was pretty unwell, actually, from the Thursday, Thursday evening, started feeling unwell. Was pretty sick Friday, still at a conference. Travelled Saturday, very unwell. Sunday sick, Monday sick, maybe okay. Tuesday, Wednesday getting better. And then I came home Saturday. So, and getting into WA is no mean feat. Like from Melbourne, that's 3.5 to 4 hours of flying, plus getting to the airport, going through the airport. And then when you get in, we flew into Busselton, so get down to Margaret River. Still got to get the car higher. But it's a long way.
It's so worth it though, isn't it? How good's Margaret River?
Yeah, it is. The coastline is just epic. In terms of how the beaches are, it's like pristine.
Did you get to surf?
No,
I guess not, because you're unwell.
Well, no, I didn't. Honestly, haven't surfed in a while. I surfed once in the last 12 months.
Okay.
So, and the day we rocked up, we went straight down to main break, because I've watched it on videos like my whole life, and always there's always been like Taj Burrow. When I was a kid growing up, Taj Burrow was like one of the best kind of up-and-coming surfers in the world, and he's from just above Margaret River, and he had a series of movies out that were just about him, and they were filmed pretty much in WA only. So all these spots that I'd watched when I was a kid, I really wanted to go and see them in person. And we went down the first day, and there was a surf comp on, and I within 5 minutes, I was just thought, I'm really glad I didn't bring my surfboard over here. I would have looked like an absolute muppet. And the waves are pretty damn big and heavy, breaking on these reefs too. A lot of power over there.
Moose, I was going to write on your Strava, because he was a guy that's on holidays, and just about every Strava post was basically whinging. It was either, I'm sick, my heart rate's high, it's too sandy, give me some run recommendations.
It's not a place I'd go on a training camp, put it that way. There'd be some really good trails, but it just doesn't seem to have that that one spot where you can go and get good views, and it's not.
I remember just running along the river when I was there.
Yeah, see, everyone told me to go there, and that's maybe where I messed up. But we were staying down on the beach at Narrabeen, and the trails there are like sand dunes galore. There's a trail called Cape to Cape, and it runs from the north from north to south, just along the coastline. But it's pretty sandy where we were, and I know Bree went out on a Sunday morning, tried to do a long run, and came back and said that was awful. So I got bits and pieces of that, but I wasn't feeling good enough to really take advantage anyway. It's a good spot. It reminds me of what Torquay and the Surf Coast was like about 30 years ago. Everyone's just super laid back, really friendly. Time just moves a bit slower there.
All right, Moose, enough Margaret River. People have tuned in to hear from the person that finished 9th at last week's New York Marathon. Welcome, Jess, and congratulations.
Thank you.
How have you pulled up?
Yeah, horribly for the first probably 4 days. Like, I couldn't lower down to sit. You just sort of start to squat and then you free fall until you hit the chair. So, yeah, it was pretty uncomfortable. And then I sort of a week later was feeling pretty good. So I did go for a bit of a jog yesterday, and it wasn't too bad.
Well, you wrote a really nice blog recapping your trip. And Julian was just saying off air that he doesn't have time to read. So hopefully over the next 15, 20 minutes, you can do a bit of an audio version of, I guess, the week leading into New York, the race itself, and any cool stories from over there.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have much to report from the last week of training. So, yeah, I'll start. Well, I flew on the Sunday morning, so that was October the 31st. So I did my longer run on the Saturday, which was it's an hour 30, 20.7 K, so it was 4:25 pace. Flew to San Fran and then on to DC. So I have a cousin living over in Washington, and it was really cool to catch up with her. She's got an 18-month-old and got to meet him. And, yeah, her husband is a squash coach over there, and they live in a really nice area. It's actually someone's basement, but it's a really nice basement. It's a different setup over there, the way people live. But I woke up after a pretty good sleep that night and did just trying to find my days here now. 45-minute jog, 10.4 Ks. So it was actually 4:19 pace. My legs were really feeling really good on that first day. They got a bit heavier after that. So I went for a little afternoon jog for 25 minutes. That one, yeah, my legs felt heavy. It was a bit hillier. They were 4:47s.
Just quickly, Jess, did they New York fly you over business class?
No, nah. I was on United Airlines, and they actually, the long flight, the 14-hour or whatever one from Melbourne to San Fran wasn't too bad, but then there was a 6 or so hour flight to DC, and that was just like a flight to Melbourne. There was no food, no TV, not much leg space. My cousin had warned me, so I had something to eat in San Fran. But, it was
6 hours. 6 hours, really?
To get from, one side to the other. So then on the Tuesday, so 2 days after getting in, I ran for an hour, and I actually went into Washington, D.C. that day and ran along the river. It was the Potomac River, and it was just this trail that was beautiful. It had autumn leaves everywhere, and I just felt so happy running. It was nice weather. That was 4:23 pace. And then I just did a bit of sightseeing and was probably on my feet a little bit too much that day because I ended up pulling up with sort of tight calves, but it was kind of hard not to walk because, the public transport was a bit tricky to figure out. On the Wednesday, I caught a train at midday into New York, and that was about 3 hours. That was actually Billy's birthday that day, so had some good chats with the boys back at home. Before I caught the train, I did my little session. So that was, it was about a 55-minute run or something, but I had 2 by 6 minutes at marathon pace, and then 2 by 3 minutes at, I think it was meant to be 5 seconds faster than marathon pace. I hit about 3:30s for the marathon pace one, and then 3:22 to 25 for the quicker one. I was feeling a little bit heavier that day, so just didn't push it too much.
Is that a staple for you, or do you mix up your final week workouts every time you do a marathon?
It depends on my travel. So usually I wouldn't do that on the Wednesday before the run. I'd do it like a day earlier. But because of the travel being on the Sunday, Adam wanted to give me 2 days of jogging before the little session. That actual session I've been doing a lot before my 10K and half marathon races. I didn't used to do that before marathons, but rather than giving me 2 by 2K, 2 by 1K, which I'd have before the shorter races, Adam just modified it to 2 by 6 minutes, 2 by 3 minutes. But really it's the intensity sort of at which I run. So if I was doing that before a 10K race, it'd be more around my 10K pace. So, yeah, that was a good opportunity to put the race flats on and get a feel for them on US soil. And then, yeah, once I arrived in New York, it was pretty crazy. It felt like I just landed on a movie set or something. I had the opportunity to catch a taxi from the train station to the hotel, but I thought, oh, no, I'll just walk to sort of see what New York's all about. And I don't know, a few minutes into my walk, I was in Times Square, and it was just, yeah, mind-blowing. The lights everywhere, and there was a cowboy sort of dressed up guy in boots and his jocks and a hat just wandering around. It's just like it was normal. And, yeah, I got to my hotel eventually, and Elsie Wellings was already there with her husband, and so she sort of showed me where to go to check in. And there was a hospitality suite on the 41st floor of the Hilton where we were staying, and that looked over Central Park. It was, yeah, it was pretty flash. Like, I've never been to a marathon like it, where there's this hospitality suite with just snacks and breakfast all day. They had merchandise that you could just take, like mugs and that sort of thing. And everyone, you know, they had a lot of staff in there who were all really friendly, and they just looked after the athletes so well. And as the days went on, you know, there's Joan Benoit Samuelson, all sorts of athletes coming through the doors. My brother and sister-in-law and I were waiting at the bottom of the elevator one day, and it opened up, and we sort of saw this really tall, massive guy just wearing all black, and he had a bit of glitter in his black shoes, and he was wearing a black mask. And then we sort of looked down, and there's Kipchoge next to him, just, yeah, with his bodyguards around him, and that was unreal. I've never met Kipchoge before, so that was a bit of a yeah, exciting.
Did he know who you were?
No way. He was sort of like, when I saw him, I thought, did I miss that Kipchoge's racing? And I asked someone, and they said, no, people just come for sponsorship activities. So I don't know exactly what he was doing there, because a lot of the athletes we saw, like Emily Infield and whatnot, were running in the 5K the day before, but yeah, he wasn't there to run. So yeah, that was the one time I saw him, and I didn't want to go near him with all of those bodyguards. So
he would have watched the Com Games. He would have been interested in what was happening. He would have watched you, and he would have thought, sitting there in Eldoret, they all would have been hanging around the TV going, have a look at this girl just blowing the socks off everyone else.
That's funny. No, well, we didn't get to have a chat. So I did get to have a chat to Paula Radcliffe in the lift, though. She asked how I'd pulled up from Com Games, because she was obviously commentating that race. So I ran into her quite a few times over the weekend.
Do you ever get starstruck, Jess?
Yeah, I remember particularly when I think it was my first ever Ekiden relay trip, when Craig Mottram arrived. I was really starstruck then, because I'd watched him at the Com Games, and yeah.
He was a star. He was our big,
and he had that charisma, to like the X factor.
Yeah. Hey, just with the travelling, you've travelled with Dylan and Billy a fair bit to your races, like from what I've seen to the Com Games. And is it easier travelling by yourself for a race?
I was really nervous about this trip because I was going to be away for 10 days and I just knew how painful it can be when you're really missing people and you're so far away. But I could tell that Billy was really happy and they were having a great time together, to be honest. So that made it easier for me. And, FaceTime, it's makes it pretty easy to communicate these days, although the New York time difference is really awkward. I could either speak to them early in the morning or sort of later in the evening, and Dylan was often racing off to work. And but no, I mean, from a sleep perspective, it was easier because I knew it was going to be challenging already with the jet lag. So I guess I could just really concentrate on doing what I needed to do to perform.
The long haul flight too.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have to share with anyone, or you had your own room?
No, we had our own rooms. It was, as I said, everyone was so well looked after. So once I was in the hotel, we teed up the next day. So that was Thursday. So Elsie and I ran together for 50 minutes, and Adam and Jono, her husband, hired city bikes, and I think Adam said it was $30 or $35 US just for the hour, so that would have been $50 or something for this bike. So they had to figure out a better system after that. But 50 minutes, 11.5 Ks, 4:21 pace. It was sort of, we were told, Adam said, this is the course that you're running on in reverse, and I didn't think it felt too bad in the training runs, but by the time I got there at 40 Ks, the hills felt more severe for sure. But it was such a good atmosphere in there with just runners everywhere, cyclists. I remember seeing a pack of runners come past, and sort of Emma Coburn at the front and Des Linden, just all of these people that I've sort of watched racing and seeing them in real life. On the Friday, I went out with actually Kane Corn. So we'd been doing some sessions together. I think I mentioned that in the last episode in the lead up. He'd done that massive run from Melbourne to Adelaide. So he was just trying to get a bit of speed in his legs in those few weeks before the marathon. And that day I was meant to do a 10-minute sort of tempo-ish effort and 6 by 30-second efforts. But I told Adam that my calves were feeling a bit tight, and it's just, I didn't really feel like I needed that tempo run in there, and he agreed. So I did a 45-minute jog with 6 by 30-second efforts, and they felt pretty good. And Friday I was sort of doing the carb load by then. So you're just sort of ticking boxes and trying to do what you can to freshen up for the race. And the Saturday we actually had a lot of planning meetings, those sorts of things, handing in the bottles. So I went out for a run in the morning with my brother and his wife Sarah, and Adam ran as well. That was 30 minutes at 4:50 pace, took it nice and easy, and then watched the 5K afterwards. And then I actually had a quick massage just to freshen up the legs and my shoulders as well. They were pretty tight from the travel. And then what was the first thing we had to do? We had to get our uniforms checked to make sure the logos aren't too big. And then I met with Deacon, the Indigenous Marathon Project group. That was really good, hearing about their stories and what was motivating them to run. And then Adam and I had our pre-race meeting just to go over the field, the conditions, and the tactical approach that I would take initially. And I mentioned it to you guys a few weeks ago. I was hoping it might be a race where I could try and give my PB a nudge, but the conditions were forecast to be warm, so we sort of changed that approach. But as it turns out, the course was pretty tough. Like, I think it would have been hard to go for a sub 2:25 there, regardless of the conditions. But really, I was just in there to race the competition around me, and Adam gave me some pace parameters. He said that you can make up a lot of ground in the final stages of the New York Marathon, because there is quite a steady rise up Fifth Avenue at about kilometre 39, I think, and then, you run through Central Park and that's undulating. So he said, probably if the pace is faster than 3:23, you might just want to dial it back a bit. And so I'll go into that in a bit more detail when we get to the race. Saturday, filled up the water bottles, had a pretty early night that night, slept quite well actually. And then on race day, we caught a bus at 5:45 a.m. and headed to a warm-up area on Staten Island. And it was pretty flash. It was this amazing indoor track that was air conditioned, and just went for a little 8-minute jog with Elsie and then jumped back on the bus to go to the start line. And then, the race began, and I'd say it was, just pretty relaxed pace early on up the hill, and then we went down the hill, and I think Desi Linden and another athlete made some surges, but the pack didn't really follow. And it was at about, at the 5K mark, I was feeling really parched. I just remember my mouth being really dry. I could feel sweat rolling down my legs. I was thinking, this is actually a pretty hot day. I need to be careful here. So I finished my whole water bottle, which I wouldn't ever usually do. And by 7K.
Sorry, Jess. What's in your water bottle?
So at 5K, that would have been Morton drink mix.
Yeah.
So I have just water with my gels, but I didn't have a gel at 5K.
And what was the temp when you sort of started?
I think it was low 20s. I still haven't figured out the Fahrenheit in my head. Like I can't do the conversion quickly. So I never really knew exactly what it was, but I think it was the humidity that made it feel a bit hotter too. And at that point in the day, there was the direct sunlight, but the clouds came over. And I actually felt more comfortable once the clouds came over and didn't have that direct sun on me. So it actually, as the race went on, I'd say got cooler. I was quite worried at 5K and even by sort of 15K, and then I didn't notice the heat so much after that.
And had you run it, so the days leading up, so in Washington and also in New York, were they all really cold days? And had you had any sort of warm days back in Adelaide in the lead up?
I hadn't really had warm days in Adelaide, but it was all pretty warm while I was over there. So from the day I arrived in Washington, it was sunny. And New York, the day before the race, was quite warm and humid. So we got to have a bit of a feel for what it would be like in the race.
Yeah.
At around, I think it was 7 or 8 Ks, Elsie and I ended up together in the pack, and she kind of called out the current pace, and it was, I think she said it was 3:15, but I think it was probably more like 3:20 at that point. We might have just gone down a downhill or something, but either way it felt a bit quick, and so we agreed that we'd just back off a bit, which meant dropping the falling off the pack, but I felt like that was a smart move, and kind of believed that we'd catch quite a few people later in the race if the temperature continued the way it was. And so it was about 14 Ks in, there was the first bit of a hill, and that's where started to make some ground and caught a couple of athletes. And then I kind of was able to just enjoy targeting athletes ahead for the rest of the race up until 36 Ks. I think that's when I got into 9th place, and then I didn't pass anyone from that point onwards.
So did you spend any considerable amount of time with one person outside Elsie early?
Not really, no. And it was sort of the uphills where people would just fall off, and so it was always a good opportunity to just maintain your effort and catch a few runners. So I remember it was an athlete, Gert, and then I can't remember the other athlete first, and then up the second bridge, which was sort of the halfway mark. I think that's where Lindsay Flanagan had dropped off, and maybe one other, Steph Bruce maybe, and then Queensborough Bridge, it was Des Linden and Kira. I sort of did run with them for a little bit because they sped up on the downhill section and then sort of along First Avenue. So they're probably the two who I ran with a little bit in the middle stages.
Does it surprise you that in these races, some of the best runners in the world, especially like definitely the best marathoners in America, aren't very strong on the hills?
Yeah, I sort of looked at the course, what was it, 2 nights before I watched the 2019 replay and watched Sinead and Ellie, and they were so strong on that course. And then, there was the year that Shalane ran it, and it seems to do well on that course. You really need to train for the course and be quite specific in it. I don't know whether athletes had done that or not. I wasn't sure whether they'd just gone out too hard and their legs had faded, or whether they just weren't prepared for the hills. I certainly felt like I prepared more specifically for the hills for Birmingham when we were up in St. Moritz. It was just, you couldn't help but do hilly runs, and that was really beneficial. If I were to do New York again, I'd definitely incorporate more hilly runs. I felt like perhaps my legs weren't as conditioned as they could have been for that course. But yeah, definitely learnt a lot.
I reckon some of those American girls maybe going through half sort of 30 to 40 seconds faster than you probably hurt them a little bit given the conditions. Whereas you made the smart call to back off. And I said it last week that you have this ability to know how you should feel at particular points in a marathon, which I reckon like Michael Shelley was very similar. Like just, his Glasgow run, just let people go and then just run your own race. And you're very similar to that. With your fueling, Jess, I read in your thing, like, did you take like 3 gels in the space of like 25 minutes or something? Is this the most that you've ever taken on from a gel perspective, or carbs, but also from a fluid perspective?
It is, yeah. So definitely the fluids. I was emptying my bottles at most stations, and some of that I was pouring on myself. My hair was so stiff at the end with all the Morton in it, but I think because I've done my 15th marathon, my guts just get more and more trained to take on gels. So I just felt I felt like I was having no troubles consuming them, and had no sort of cramps or gut aches at 30k, and I knew that our last station was at 36k's, and I knew that it was going to be quite hilly at the end. So at 34k's, I just decided to reach down my crop top and grab my backup gel and have that one as well. So yeah, I ended up having one at 30, about 34, and then 36. And I felt fine during the race, but when you finish, you certainly don't feel like touching sugar for a while.
And in the last, sorry, you go, Moose. You go.
Oh, you must have felt pretty good to be able to take on an extra gel. Like at that point, most people are just searching for the end, and they have no desire to want to take anything.
Yeah, and I guess there was an element of risk, because I could have ended up cramping because I hadn't taken on that many gels before, but I just felt like my stomach was fine, and I knew that in previous races we'd had the opportunity to take on a bit of drink mix at 40k's, and we wouldn't have that opportunity in New York. I did have a bit of trouble opening the gel though, because it had been down my crop top and was all sweaty, so I got a bit frustrated trying to grip it to rip it open, but got there eventually.
The last 5k, Jess, was it like mentally, were you like ever concerned that, I feel like I'm struggling here a little bit, hopefully I can hold it together, or did you always feel like you were full of running?
It's funny, when I haven't done a marathon for a while, I find that when the going gets tough, you just have so much motivation, and you know where you need to go mentally to get everything out of yourself and dig really deep. But because my last all-out effort wasn't actually that long ago, 3 months or something, I did find it just a little bit harder mentally to go there again. And that's where I kind of know I need a bit of a break before my next marathon, when you're just having a bit of trouble going to that, deep place. But I definitely think with the crowd and the atmosphere there, that helped. And it probably didn't really start to hurt until, that 5th Avenue hill it was at 3 or so Ks to go. So it sort of just got exponentially really hard at that point.
And I guess because you're catching people, like running through the field, like even if you are physically struggling a little bit, like mentally you just feel good just catching people. So that probably helped as well.
It's true, because I had Emma Bates ahead, but she wasn't slowing. It was obvious that, she was coming home, finishing strong. So I just really had to get to the finish line at the end there.
And even running for a gold medal at a major championships, it's pretty easier to go deeper in that regard than sort of big top 10 with no one really around you.
For sure.
It's different significance.
You got any more questions, Moose, about the race itself, or should we get to like the post-race and celebrations and how that all played out?
Pretty good job. That was good.
So talk us through then, like crossing the line. How'd you feel? What happened after the race? All that sort of stuff.
I was just so keen to know who had won and what my position was, and you crossed the line having no idea where you were. And I saw Emma Bates. I said, "Do you know what you came?" She's like, "No, I've got no idea." So eventually found Adam, and he sort of told me my place, and that was exciting. And we hobbled over to the recovery tent and looked at the food table, just didn't feel like eating anything, but knew I needed something, so grabbed a banana in the end. And then he said that he'd been tracking Jack and Kane as well. I think Kane was due to finish in about 10 minutes and Jack about 7 minutes behind him. So we decided to walk out to the finish area again and see if they'd let us through to watch Jack finish. And we got pretty close, saw him just after he crossed the line, and the people handing out the medals, when they heard it was my brother, said that I could give him his medal, and so that was good. He probably looked a bit fresher than I was expecting when he crossed the line, but he's suffering now, so he had a good hard hit out.
Was he emotional at all? Because I know like a marathon can just make people cry when they cross the line. Like it's pretty special for some people, or he wasn't very emotional at all about it.
He wasn't really emotional. He was just, I think he just looked really satisfied. His wife was running around the course, cheering for him. And so logistically it was hard to try and find her afterwards because he didn't have his phone. And I think he was just, really intrigued and curious to run a marathon. And then afterwards just said he found it difficult feeling good at halfway. He's not used to ever being in a race where you feel so comfortable at points. And I think what you were saying earlier about, pulling back and knowing how you should feel at certain points, that is definitely something that's unique about the marathon, is that you should actually be feeling comfortable for a lot of the race, but then it gets really, really, really hard, in those final stages. So, he said his calves were flickering a bit, but his main issue was his shoulders all kind of cramped up, which I could relate to that. I remember my first couple of marathons getting really tight through the neck and shoulders.
And how'd you celebrate?
So there was a bit of an after party dinner that the race organisers put on, and that was really nice. It was a Brazilian grill, and you just walk in and sit down, and you have a little card with a red side and a green side, and if you put it on green, people just walk towards you with these huge cuts of meat and just slice them onto your plate. And that was a bit of fun, and they had some cocktails that they were handing out there. And then we went on to a rooftop bar to celebrate Steph Bruce's retirement. So that was her final sort of elite race. She's been on the running circuit for a long time. And so that was with, she runs for the Hoka crew. And there was a lot of the Arizona Flagstaff athletes at that party.
Very good. Any more questions, Moose?
Where's that rank in your overall career marathoning rankings? So is that a top 3 result of yours?
Probably. Yeah, I'd say the recent Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, let's rank them. Let's rank top 3.
It's hard to
ninth at World Champs would have to be up there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I also think the Perth result, because it was real unknown territory. It had been a while since I'd run a marathon, and my body had changed, I guess, after giving birth. And so that one, I was I sort of ranked that one pretty highly as well. But it probably was Commonwealth Games in 2022, World Champs 2017, and then Perth, New York are both sort of around the same mark. And yeah, every marathon's been so different, and in the lead up, the 2018 Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast, I was so happy that I was able to finish that race, because I've never mentally had to push myself so hard to get to a finish line. So that one taught me a lot as well. I don't think I ran that race so well tactically, but I was proud of the way I got to the finish when I was hurting so much.
You say that each marathon is very different for you, or like the build-ups and that, but I'll tell you what, one thing that you do is you nail every single one. Like we said last week, I can't remember the last time that you had a poor marathon. Can you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can thank Adam a lot for that too, just the way he's creative in the way he gets me ready with different challenges, and then the way he helps me to believe in myself, or just approach the race in a smart way, given my preparation, to try and get the best out of myself.
And what was the debrief? Have you had a debrief with Adam after this race, in terms of like, is he super stoked with what you did? Like anything that you guys would have changed or wanted to go better?
No, he was happy. I think you go into any race hoping that it could be your day where you could get sort of into the top 5 or whatever. But I think in New York, given the field, a number of athletes would have had to make some big mistakes or have a bad day for that to happen. So I feel like on that given day, I got the best result I could have, and Adam felt the same way, I think. So he was really happy.
I've got one more question. And I know you said that you need to take a break now before you focus on your next marathon, but 227, or basically, but your last 2 marathons have been sort of similar times on hilly courses, which you'd have to think they're worth 3-4 minutes on a flat course. Surely your next marathon is flat, fast one?
I hope so, yeah. No, I feel like I'm keen to try a flatter, faster course in my next one, whatever that will be.
Priorities for next year? Because obviously there's World Champs, but we're getting into that window now where all of the Aussie girls will be looking to nail a fast time to get themselves on the team for Paris, more so than maybe World Champs. So are you more likely to maybe do like, like an April marathon and then a September marathon that are both sort of flat, fast courses, and give up World Champs next year?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. There are so many options next year with, World Cross early in the year, and then World Champs. And then, so often I sort of put those opportunities to run for Australia, because I do love running for the country, over an opportunity to run one of those flatter courses. So I don't know, but I think my priority will be more long term next year. But certainly the World Champs I think will be incredible over in Europe, just 1 year after the last ones.
Well, it's exciting. We can't wait to see what you do 2023. Any more questions, Moose, or are we going to go from New York to Margaret River?
Oh, what a
come down
climax! Yeah, yeah, that's a bit embarrassing, but we'll get through it quickly. So I got out to test the health on. I think I got out Monday after missing Saturday and Sunday for running, and just not great. Heart rate quite high because of the gastro type illness I had. Tuesday, same thing. Ran from the beach up towards Margaret River. There's a trail that linked Margaret River. I always thought it was on the beach, but it's actually about 10 minutes drive away, about 10K. And so there's a trail that kind of runs next to the road. I ran from Margaret River into town just because it worked out conveniently. We went up and did some of those really cool picturesque beaches that day, took some photos, hung out on the beach a bit. Pretty cooked actually after being in the sun for so long. Haven't seen the sun for a while down here. On the next day, whatever it was, I picked up a few recommendations of Instagram. So thank you to everyone who replied to my Instagram story recommending the Wandani Trail, which is about it's a long trail anyway. I don't know how far it is, but it's dirt, and it's like a rail trail type surface that runs through some of the regional areas north and south of Margaret River. So I went out and back on that. The sun, it wasn't very hot or anything. It's just the sun. I'm not used to it, so it takes a bit to get going. It takes a bit to sort of get used to it once you have a few hot days, especially if you're out and about all day in the sun as well. The weather turned to shit after that, so I didn't have to worry. I got a poor lead on a trail out the back of where we were staying in Narrabut. I think the guy who ran it like too long ago, because now it is sandy as, and it was so shit. And it just stirs up like my plantar, stirs up my knees, my back, just from every time you take a step, you're sinking into like the softest sand ever. I don't think there's a worse surface to run on. Like, I'd take the snow, I'd take cambered concrete over this. So once I got off that, and then you hit asphalt, oh boy, it feels good. All of a sudden, you've just got actual response under your feet, and everything just feels smooth. So I just ran 10K or so. I think I ran 10K most days. I did a little workout the next day. I was actually starting to feel good this day, so I thought I'll do a little progression run, similar to how you do it on the treadmill, Croaks, except I did it I used to do these workouts all the time and I used to schedule them for some of my athletes where I would just say, it's an hour run half an hour out, but come back in like 25 minutes. So just don't structure it. Just make sure you come back harder.
They're fun. They're fun, aren't they?
It's a very easy way to do it.
Ease into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for old bodies like us. 30-minute warm-up, basically. And then no pressure on the paces. I thought I'll structure it kind of. Otherwise, I don't trust myself not to cook it on the way home. So I ran 30 minutes kind of down. It's like downhill. And it had a headwind. And then I turned around at 30 minutes and I broke it into 3 10-minute blocks where I kind of kept the heart rate max 155 for 10 minutes, then max 165 for the next 10, and then I only really had 5-6 minutes before I got back because I was running faster. So that was at 170 max. But I was going uphill, which ended up being like probably the best for my body that I could do because the pace was slow, but my heart rate was higher. So it was good on the knees actually going uphill and just allowing the incline to raise the heart rate. And then that was on Friday. So got out for my last run before I travelled on Saturday morning. Gee, coming back, you lose 3 hours. You have a 3 hour 40 flight or something. It's like 7 hours just disappears once you get on the plane.
How was Pia?
Oh, Pia was a gun. She was a champion, but she did not sleep. So she just like thought that the plane was the best thing in the world.
all the Breeze friends in Geelong were like, oh, how was the plane trip? Oh, Pia was a champ. Moose was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I think she was good. I had the headphones in. I was just watching a movie. Nah, she loves Mum. So she's definitely attached to Mum at the moment. But she was squirming around and, doing her thing. So, but yeah, just absolute. Before we got out of the car park of the airport, she was sound asleep. It really knocked her about. I ran long on Sunday morning, 90 minutes, got some hills in. I haven't looked at this run. I'm going to say off the top of my head, 300 metres a climb, 316 it was. So that's not bad. I got going at the end, ran a 4-minute K, which you would have loved. Oh, I ran a 3:50, Croaks. That's right up your alley.
Oh, I didn't run any kilometres on Sunday, so you beat me.
Yeah, but have a look, 3:50.
3:50, that's good.
That's what you do all your runs in.
No, I don't have many at 3:50.
Gee, what heart rate was that at? Oh, yeah, it was getting up there. Shit. But I didn't have my heart rate because the suitcase that I took back, I put the lock on for some reason, but it was Bree's suitcase. And then we got home and no one could remember the combination. So all my shit was locked in my suitcase. So we're about to get the chisel out and try and just like break in. And I thought, forget the heart rate monitor, I'll be all right. And then we got home, we're trying all these combinations. And then I Google how to break into a Samsonite suitcase. And the first thing they say is, just check the combination 000. I'm like, that's stupid. Who would do that? Read for about 10 more minutes. And then I said to Bree, just try 000. I know it won't work. Click, straight open. Couple of morons. But anyway, I got 80K or so, 82K. And yeah, I've done a lot at this. It's time to get going.
You still racing this Thursday?
Nah, so we have a conference Wednesday night to Friday night, and I get worn out by those things. There is a lot of mental energy, and we have dinners after the actual conferences, after the day of work as well. So I'm going to try my best to actually get out there and watch it, but I know that I won't be running in it. And that's a bit of a cop-out, but because I was going to do Run Geelong, it was on the weekend here on yesterday morning. And by the time I got home from travelling, we got home at like 8 o'clock or something. I just couldn't be bothered waking up the next morning and driving like 45 minutes into town. And anyway, I didn't do it, and I'm not doing this one, so I need to find another race.
Hey, Miss, what do you reckon people think about our running these days? We just get on here and like, yeah, ran about 100K this week. Might race. Oh, I got this niggle. It's not really inspiring,
probably pretty relatable though.
You did introduce me as the Bogong the Hotham record holder, so there's always that to fall back on, Croaks.
Yeah. But yeah, we're certainly not that inspiring. That's why Brady's left us for a couple of real runners.
Yeah, he's got a couple of frothers over there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Although, Brad, I reckon you put us on the park against any of those blokes, we just beat them. We just got that old boy mentality.
Yeah, don't know about it at the moment, but we bring a gun in every week to replace Brady, so we'll make up for it that way.
Yeah, we bring ambition in.
Yeah.
We don't provide it.
All right, I'll whip through my week quickly. It was going well till Saturday. So Monday, I did my 2 laps around Mulligans. I actually felt pretty good. I threw in a couple of surges up the hill, and so I ran 4:06s for an hour. And then Tuesday, I decided to push the session back to Wednesday. 1, because I did run a bit harder on Monday, but 2, just got home from work on Tuesday, and I'm just like, this couldn't be arsed. So just did 45 minutes, 4:13s. Then Wednesday morning, I got out and did hills. So I was doing lots of hills at the start of the year, like the short hills, like 40, 45 seconds. This hill session, I decided to do a few longer reps. And by long, I only mean like sort of 70, 75 seconds, and then a few shorter ones. So I did 6 70 to 73 second hills, jog back in about, the jog back's about 30 seconds longer than the rep time. And then I gave myself 2 minutes after doing 6 of the longer ones, and then did 5 30-second hills. I actually felt like I was moving pretty well up the hill. So yeah, like it was 137 metres of elevation over the 6K. Then that afternoon, got out for just a lap of Mulligans at 4:15s. My midweek long run was then pushed back to the Thursday. So I did 90 minutes at 4:11s. This was actually, I was going to listen to something, but then my headphones stuffed up. So it ended up being 90 minutes of just no music, which was actually enjoyable. Like I normally have something in my ears for most of my easy runs, but that was an enjoyable run. Yeah, 4:11s for 21.5K. Then Friday morning, got out just around Yerribee Pond. Wore the heart rate strap actually, Moose. So I ran 4:19s, averaged like 132, I think, heart rate. It was pretty warm by that stage as well, so I was reasonably happy with that. Did like 5 20-second strides.
I was going to say, for how much you endorse running by feel, there's this, you getting 1 kilometre splits every single training run you do. If that's not the biggest release of endorphins and dopamine, like a dopamine hit that I've ever heard, it's crazy. I think you doing that.
But I don't look at it every kilometre. Like, yes, I have K splits on, but it doesn't influence like I need to run this one in 4:10.
I can guarantee you, if you look down and see a fast one, that makes you feel better.
Well, if anything, on this run with the heart rate strap, I was actually running to the heart rate. Like any time I felt like it was getting high, I would like purposely slow down to
brilliant.
Keep. Yeah. So that's how but I still had K splits on, but I was not interested in the K splits.
Yeah. But you still, I think you need to get rid of them. Jess, what are your thoughts? Jess, you still there?
I agree, Moose. Like
Sorry, I was muted.
There's times when I've thought of actually just ditching the watch completely, and because if I go and do 2 laps of mulligans, I know how far it is, and so I just run without a watch.
Well, do it.
Yeah, well, I might when I'm back running.
I think it would be like just having to wean off something. I think you'll notice it not being there. It'll sort of cause anxiety initially.
I'm willing to give it a go, or at least have it so that I turn K splits off, and I do just have the clock or the time.
Yeah, I would love a week of no. Or just turn off your K splits to start with.
All right, I'll do that. But I'm not running at the moment, but we'll get to that. So then Saturday was my second session for the week, and it was one of those days where, where it gets real hot and humid early on, and then it starts to storm around lunchtime. So it was like probably 21 degrees, like when I started warming up, which means that the garage is hotter. So I warmed up and I was like, this is not going to be that much fun. And so my session was 5 by 6 minutes with 1 minute rest. And when was it? It was like halfway through the 4th rep, my sort of tib post area went from like feeling absolutely nothing to like, I've had tib post pain before, but it's something that normally just creeps up on you and is like quite manageable. But this one felt more like a bit of a muscle tear, or like just something that wasn't quite right. And I had a minute left of that rep. So I finished it, sort of, gave my inner shin a bit of a massage, because I find that sometimes sort of helps release my tib post a bit. And then I jumped on for the last rep, and it was like the first couple of steps were a bit uncomfortable, and then it was fine. And then cooling down, it was noticeable, but not super painful. And then once I really like cooled down, had a shower and stuff, like I could barely walk. So like the inside of my shin, like above like the medial malleolus there, was like really, really sore. So walking around the shops going, I'm in trouble here. Like I knew, when you injure yourself and you go, yeah, I know that I'm not going to be able to run now for like a few days, knowing how it feels right now.
Have you been trying different shoes? Is that what you think might have caused it?
Well, the shoes that I was wearing, like I didn't feel like I was hitting the treadmill very well that day. And so it feels like it was more of an acute injury, as opposed to, because I had no tib post pain the days leading up, even the warm up. And it was almost like this just acute injury. And I've been trying to work out why the treadmill for me feels way harder than it does outside. So for example, I'll do my warm up. I'll sometimes put my shoes on and do a stride, like out the garage, across the road to the house, across the road. So it's a good like 50, 60 meter stride. And like, I feel like I'm moving pretty well. And then you get on the treadmill and I feel like I'm absolutely sprinting to run like 320 kilometer pace. And I'm wondering if, like, when you hit the ground doesn't move. So you can hit the ground and I feel like I get a bit more back. Whereas when I hit the treadmill, because the treadmill's moving, I feel like I don't get quite as much purchase or power out of the treadmill. So then I feel like I have to like constantly increase my cadence.
And I think it depends on the treadmill as well, like the difference between running on a woodway versus like one of those skinnier kind of transportable treadmills. I think too, I just notice everything when I'm on a treadmill, the way you hit the ground, any asymmetries, whether you're veering off to one side, it makes you really hyper aware of your landing pattern and it's a kind of a good way to check your biomechanics.
Yeah, I definitely didn't feel like I was hitting the treadmill like that well. There's
also just like insane repetitive stress that doesn't get any type of variance in like your foot strike. I can't see treadmill running being a good thing for most people unless it's to really unload a certain thing that's caused by hills or camber or whatever. But I often worry when someone's running or goes somewhere hot or has to run on the treadie for extended periods.
Yeah. So I knew doing this session, I was halfway through it and it was just my heart rate was a bit higher than it was a couple of weeks earlier, but it was largely due to the heat. The pace, I still felt like I was in control. But I'm like, no, I think I'm done with treadmill sessions for a while now because it's just not that much fun when it's hot. I think I still enjoy doing the treadmill for some of my just easy runs, but I think I'm done with sessions on the treadmill until it cools down. Because I was having a fair bit of success earlier this year doing one session a week, but it's different doing the session when it's 5 degrees in the garage versus 25 and you're not getting that much air circulating through there. So anyway, that was my week. So I didn't run on Sunday. It's still noticeable. So if I was to hop on that leg, it would be no good. And what I find really aggravates it is if I put full pressure on the bad foot and then invert my foot while I've got pressure on the ground, that is really bad. Whereas if I lift my foot up and I invert my foot, there's no pain whatsoever. So I don't know if what you can tell me, Jess, about that, but they're the symptoms.
Yeah, sounds pretty inflamed.
Yeah, so it's definitely improved a lot since Saturday morning. I can at least sort of walk around and not notice it too much, but I reckon it's probably hopefully by the end of the week I'm back jogging. So 99K for the week for me.
Okay.
But, treadmills.
How's it now?
How is it? Oh, it's much better. It's not as it's not as tender to touch anymore. As I said, it would still hurt if I had to just hop on it. But I reckon it's 2 to 3 days and hopefully settle down. It's not like I've run through it for days. So hopefully it settles. All right, let's thank some Patreons. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
So Nicholas Martin, he's from Southport, Queensland, which we know. It's the start line, isn't it, of the Gold Coast Marathon. So we found a Nick Martin from the Gold Coast on Strava. He follows Louis McAfee, but none of us. So that's a bit sad, isn't it? Does he follow Jess?
No, I don't. No, I don't think he does.
That is such a bad follow. Only follows Louis.
That's why I followed it up here, Moose, with hopefully it's the right one then.
Yeah. If it's not, this man needs some direction in his life. 5K PB, 18:44, 10K, 39:44 from the Gold Coast Marathon Festival, half marathon. Last year's Sunny Coast, 91:39. Mm-hmm. Jess, which one's the best? Quickly.
Oh, geez, at the half?
Half.
Yeah.
You thinking the half?
Nah, I reckon the 18:44 is better than the half.
Well, it's not the 10. It's 5 or the half, but we're not getting an answer. Very non-committal on this.
I'll go the 5.
Yeah, 5 for me.
All right. Who you got, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, I was tossing up between the 5 and the half, but we'll go to 5 and then it's clean, and we've established it's the 5.
She's a perfect replacement for Brady.
Yeah, fence.
Brady loves sitting on the fence.
Very comfortable on a fence.
It's so true. Yeah. Well, I'm going to struggle with the surname here. Sorry, Bryce Dickers. Dickers. What do you guys think?
Hold on, we've been caught out with these before. Say it slowly.
Bryce Dickus.
Yeah.
Bryce, yeah.
Dickus. Rozelle, New South Wales. PB's 5K 17:44 Rhodes Park Run. 10K 37:46 Sydney Harbour 10. Marathon 2:59:39 at the 2022 Canberra Marathon. He's a Mulligan's Flat Track Club athlete and a big dog at Audi Mossman. So do you know Bryce?
Yes, I coach Bryce.
So you know his surname then?
Well, I've only met him. Actually, I've met him once in person, and that was at the Canberra Marathon. So I remember seeing him at like the 21K mark because I'd obviously seen photos of him on Strava. And then the time I saw him after that was about 400 metres from the finish line. And I was giving him a rev up because it was touch and go whether he was going to break 3 hours. And I don't think he realised how close he was to like missing it. And I've never seen anybody be able to sprint so much at the end of a marathon. Like I gave him this rev up and he goes from jogging to basically like full out sprint 400 metres from the finish. I'm like, man, you have way too much left. And then I see him after the race and he's got the Audi singlet on, bleeding nipples. And I'm like, oh, but like, it's pretty cool. Like, breaking 3 hours. So, so thanks for your support, Bryce.
Have you guys seen Life of Brian, Monty Python?
Oh, like years
have.
ago. Like I was in high school, I reckon, when I watched that.
Do you remember the biggest dickest scene?
I need to go back and watch that.
Oh, please do. Biggest Dickus. It's one of the all-time classic scenes. That's why I thought this guy might have been taking the piss here.
No, he's not taking the piss. So he's a big dog at Audi. You know how these car dealerships, they win these awards and get to go overseas? Like he got to go to Munich, fully paid trip as part of like his job. So pretty cool. All right, I've got Harry Murphy. I'm not sure whether Moose knows Harry. He's from Wendouree in Victoria, so like Ballarat. Mm-hmm. Works at Mount Rowan Secondary College. He's a head of house and humanities and health teacher. But there's no running. I couldn't find any running stats from him.
Yeah, I don't know him. Never heard of him actually. Maybe he started running since I left, or maybe this is a false name. Where do you find him on LinkedIn?
I found Harry Murphy, that works at Mount Rowan Secondary College.
Okay, well, chances are if you're from Ballarat, then you're a runner. So it must be him.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks, Bryce, Harry, and Nicholas for your support. A message now from our podcast partner, Lululemon. We've been talking about and wearing Lululemon's limited edition Movember product range. In today's world, we know that mental well-being support is needed more than ever. As part of Lululemon's ongoing commitment to elevate mental well-being, our partnership with Movember hopes to accelerate and expand access to wellbeing tools across Australia and New Zealand, creating real lasting change within our communities. You can show your support for Movember with this limited edition Lululemon Movember product collection. Lululemon is here to support you while you support Movember in changing the face of men's health. Try it out for yourself with free shipping and free returns for all online orders. Go to lululemon.com.au. Yeah, let's head on to running news. There's not a lot of like super, important races, I guess, we're covering. Let's maybe start with the Vic Milers meet, Jess.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so Archie Noakes got the win in 8:10, followed by William Lewis in 8:11:36, and then closely behind him, Andy Buchanan from the 2022 Birmingham Games Marathon, 8:11:65, testing his legs over the shorter distance.
Fall from grace, wasn't it? Imagine being in the Com Games and then coming back and getting dusted at like 9 p.m. in some random regional track.
I think Brady was probably more upset that his idol got beaten.
Oh yeah, Brady was dirty.
In the women's race, Charlotte Wilson ran 9:33 for the win. Brooke Williams in 9:51, and then Saskia Lloyd, is that Brett Robinson's girlfriend? 9:52. I know he's dating a Saskia.
Perhaps, but Charlotte Wilson she took off early. Did you guys watch this?
No, I didn't see it.
No, yeah, she was impressive. She, like, the field was there, and then she just all of a sudden surged and just started running away. And it's a big gap really in an A race of a milers meet. Like milers, there's some credentialed runners. The women's field was a bit weaker than the men's field, no doubt, but still pretty impressed with how she busted the field open there.
Mm. And what events do you have, Moose? What are you going to recap?
Oh, yeah. So, well, Run for Geelong was on. This wouldn't normally get a mention, but friend of the show, Ellie, she had her first race back since being having a baby and having COVID. So she ran 35:25. Hilly course. That's a pretty good result. I did not expect it.
It is. I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, you should see the course. It's not quick. Not quick at all. Like hilly. And she had a few of her teammates, like surf club teammates, around to chase down. So there was a bit of competition there.
Were you surprised, Moose, that she was able to do that off what she's been doing?
Yeah, I was. Definitely was. Like if you look at her workouts, doesn't suggest she could do this, but some people just can race.
Yeah.
Some people just have that gene where you put them on a start line, and she was like that. Like any sport you give her, she'll compete. But she's obviously a natural runner.
Were there good prizes for this event?
Oh, I don't think so. No.
Okay. Yeah.
This used to be Run Geelong, and it used to be the Cotton On Foundation used to run it, and it used to every single dollar used to go to the hospital appeal. So, or the building a new children's ward at Geelong Hospital, and a fun run or an event where every single dollar of your entry goes to it, plus all the fundraising and stuff, that is impressive. Like that means Cotton On basically fund the event, and they don't use the entries to pay for it or to help fund it. So it used to be massively supported. It was Troopy. Troopy did run. He was the founder of Run Geelong early days, and then Cotton On took. There's like some. There was a bit of dispute over the race, I guess. But in the end, Cotton On took it over and put it on for a long time. And then the foundation, once they built the children's ward, they sort of gave the race away, and they got taken over again. But it still goes to the hospital. I'm not sure whether it's every dollar anymore.
You used to see guys like Joel Selwood promoting it, and I think he was sponsored by Cotton On. That'd be why. But
yeah, Cotton On sponsored Geelong Footy Club.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've got lesser known Geelong footballers that sponsor it, that are the ambassadors now, like Reece Stanley. Not quite the Selwood type. Ali was an ambassador actually. No. But it's good to have a town or a fun run in your city that people get up and about for, even if it's just to walk the course. The males, Brett Ellis won the race, and I can't find him on Strava, and there's no results on the website, but I know that he was about 30 seconds in front of a guy I coached, Daniel Hart, who was second place, and he ran 32:15. So I reckon it was about 31:45. There was a mile in Japan, Fukuoka Road Mile.
Yeah. Apparently
it was put on by the foundation. Suguru Osaka has some sort of organisation that put this on, and Stewy McSweyn went over it. There must have been some good cash going on, because he's gone over to Japan to run a 4-minute mile and win. And he took his MTC teammate, Georgia Griffith, and she won as well, 4:31. So a little payday there.
Yeah, I was thinking this must be a new event, because like early on in the week I saw Stewy put up on Instagram like a photo that he was in Japan. I'm like, oh, I wonder what Stewy's doing in Japan. And then I saw this pop up, and I'm like, I've never known of a road mile over in Japan before that Aussies travel for.
Yeah, I know. It was the first time, I think. And obviously, I think second place was 4:04, so he's won it easy.
I wonder if there's because I thought I saw somewhere that somebody wrote, it might have been Georgia, a good start to the roads, like to the season over here or something, or like. So I wonder if there's a series of races that they do over there. I guess we'll find out in the next week or two if they race more. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. Just a couple of other quick ones. There was the GONG 5000 Chapter 2. So like the Wollongong Track Club have been trying to put on a few events. They did a 5K on the track last year, and this year they put a 5K on around the new Criterium bike track. So I think it was like 5 laps or something. Luke Hince won the men's in 14:29, and Katie Mahoney won the women's in 17:15. And the last one, Carcoar Cup. So Carcoar is this tiny little town halfway between Cowra and Bathurst. Population is less than 1,000, and they have a marathon, a half marathon, a 10K, kids race, a marathon relay. There's over $13,000 in prize money for this event. So the half marathon, which it's not quite half, I think it's like 20.5K, but it's some dirt roads, some hills, so it's not a quick course anyway. But Rorey Hunter won in 68:35. Benny Saint was second in 68:53, and James Nipperess was third in about 70 flat. So
it was good to see Nipper out again.
Yeah, not a bad podium in this really, really small country town. Boys out there obviously chasing a bit of cash. I think it was like $1,200 for first. Paige Campbell won the women's in 76:36, and Katie Pora, who's one of Dick Telford's athletes, was second in 77:10. And the reason I put this in was probably more the fact that, we had one of our biggest 10K races here in Canberra last weekend, and Rorey Hunter didn't run. Katie Pora didn't run. Paige did run. But, if a small town can put on an event where they're dishing out $13,000 in prize money, surely like the major fun run in the Australian capital can, get a bit of money to boost the popularity of the event and get, guys like Rory, Jai, all the big dogs in Canberra out there running. So sort of just doubling down a little bit.
I liked it. I listened last week and I thought that's good from you. I understand when races pop up and there is no prize money, because it being part of a couple of race organisations myself, like I see it's pretty tight, especially early in the when you're setting a race up. It's pretty hard to be given prize money. It doesn't make sense, especially in the level of race that I put on. But when you're talking about an existing race that's been there for so long, as well as the tradition and the sort of heritage of the race. Yeah. And always there's a different story when you start pulling prize money away from events. That's different because that's been there. That's the culture of the event. And it's like when you start doing that, like the money comes out of the profit basically. So these guys are looking at it going, what's more important? This cash in our palm, like a little bit extra cash, a little bit extra profit from the race, or providing prize money to incentivize fast runners coming. And in that, it's often a slash with incentivizing, but also supporting elite runners. Because without prize money, elite runners disappear pretty quickly.
Yeah. But also, Moose, like if I was in charge of one of these events, like I'd be willing to take a bit of a hit in the prize money to like make it an iconic event, try and build it up, make it something that people are talking about, whether it be fast times or, the fields that they've managed to assemble. Because I know as a race director, I'd get a buzz about having, elite athletes at my event.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I'm with you, especially a big city race like this.
Yeah.
Like smaller town fun runs, like I don't think anyone rocked up to run for Geelong expecting prizes. I don't think they would, because it's a fundraising fun run. Like it's just not something that would be expected. But you go to a race like that put on by a commercial race organisation, just like Great Ocean Roads put on by IMG, like they have kept the prize money at what it has been since it started, and I applaud them for it.
We look at this Carcoar Cup, like the population's less than $1,000 and they put $13,000 up in prize money. Like another fun run here, Orange. They do the same thing. They have quite good prize money for their marathon half and 10, which is often like 5 weeks before Canberra Marathon. So, if small country towns can do it, then surely they can do it in the capital.
They must have big sponsors come on board for that.
Yeah, they must. Like the town or the businesses in town must really get behind it.
Yeah.
It's like that Golden Mile over in WA.
Yeah. So
yeah, you got mining companies get on. That's easy, but like going around to your local bloody running store and asking for cash for prize, like I can tell you it's a very difficult way to get fundraising.
I guess the other problem though, Moose, like we don't know. So one of the issues with like the big cities putting on events on the major roads is like the expenses of closing those major roads.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably means that they probably don't make as much profit as what people think. Even though, the big city events often will charge, $100+ for the half marathon. So you think, look how much revenue they've made, but it's probably, it probably doesn't cost much to close the roads in Carcoar versus the main road in Canberra.
Yeah. I was staggered to see how much it cost when I was helping with that Ballarat race, Run for a Cause. Yeah. Staggered to see how much road crossings were. Like just the traffic control. A lot of the time you get people anyway. People don't.
But even like I'm just talking like even if you put $1,000 up for first place, like you're going to get some elite guys turn up. So, anyway, all right, that's running news. Moose, we are going to review some product from Lululemon now. Firstly, a big thanks to Lululemon for sending us some gear to wear and review. As a result of their partnership with Movember, Lululemon have released a special Movember product capsule. When you buy something from this range, $5 will be donated to Movember. So, Moose, we got some of this Movember-inspired kit. What did you receive?
Well, I went for the Surge Line Short 6-inch, which is the Movember kind of specialty, I guess, given that there's little mustaches all over the short. So it's like a grey-based short with, I'm going to say there'd be thousands of little white mustaches all over them. Yep. So kind of pretty unique pattern. Not going to confuse it with anything. Has a little bit of boxer short appearance just because of the pattern. I really like that there's something different. Sometimes it gets really boring just wearing black shorts. So I like this. I use the 4-inch version of this, the Surge Line Short. There's an inner to the short, which is I don't really have in other shorts. Underneath in the little liner bit, there's like a little phone pocket, which is pretty cool. But then I ran in these tonight, and I used the big phone pocket in the back. I hate now that I've actually worn shorts, the apparel that you can hold your phone in. I hate putting my spy belt on these days, and so I love to be able to just carry my phone in my shorts. And some phone pockets are better than others. This one here, you can pull your phone out on the run and change songs or skip through Brady's week review on Road to Valencia, just get to the good stuff, and then put it back all with it while you're still running. That's so much better than having to stop and actually fiddle around, open zippers, try to get your phone out, and then have to start running again. So big fan of how they incorporated that. It's a bit longer of a short than I normally roll with, and I probably wouldn't do a workout in this, bit too much coverage. But if you're like me, workout days are for the 2-inch shorts, or really warm days, maybe we'll rock a 2-inch. But for these training, like a Monday easy run for me, when the weather's not that great, bit of coverage is good. So go down 6 inches rather than the usual 4-inch for me. The other thing that I should mention, the phone in the back pocket can occasionally bounce in certain types of shorts, whereas this waistband is strong enough where my shorts don't fall down and my phone doesn't bounce. So I think that's an important thing. And these are all intricate runner things that sometimes brands like Lululemon that sort of maybe haven't catered for the specialty running in the past, they can often overlook. But they have nailed this. They've nailed the actual, the technical, what runners want, I guess, from a short. Small little nerdy things like this, that could be the make or break is if you buy another pair.
Yeah, so I got the same, Moose, and the one thing I really like is the liner. So most running shorts that I've ever had, the liner has just been like an undie sort of feel to it, whereas these ones are like a full sort of half tight in a way, or they come further down your leg. So I really like that. Also, one of the other features which I'll use a lot is the little strap at the side where you can actually put your singlet or shirt. So you know how sometimes you go out for a run and it'll start off pretty cool, but then you get hot and you want to get the chest out. So you take your singlet or shirt off and you're like, well, what do you do with it then? You either scrunch it up and run with it in your hand, or you sort of maybe shove it down your pants, or you try and tuck it in at the back. But this on the side has like a little strap that you can actually just slide your shirt or your singlet down, and it'll just sort of sit on the side of your pants.
It's so funny you mention that, because I've seen ads for this type of thing before, and I look at the ad and think nobody's ever done that ever. But I always take my shirt off and I always roll it up and I always tuck it into the back of my waistband, so it gets all sweaty and disgusting. And generally it comes off after less than sort of 2 or 3 minutes of running anyway. So I've got to wash it. You strap it in here, you probably don't have to wash it. This is a win. Yeah. Maybe even just going for a walk. The only thing, it doesn't have the side pocket if you're just out casually rolling around, but that's why it's a running short, because you can't do both. You can't do casual and running together.
That's right. And what about from the tops? Did you get a Movember top? Yeah,
so I haven't run in this yet. I've worn this casually, or as Brady would say, well, I wore this to the pub. It's a nice sort of soft fabric, but it does have a good cut to it where I literally just go for a walk in it. I haven't had a chance to run in it, which is a shame, but I can't see it being a problem. The cut is again, Lululemon, pretty fashionable brand. This is something that a lot of the t-shirts I've got in my wardrobe, I would not just chuck on and go out for lunch in, whereas I'd do that with this, which, it's probably not exactly what they want their running t-shirts to, or the details they want talked about, but that's the truth of the matter. They look good.
Well, I wore this one to work, as a PE teacher out running around the oval. And it looks good as well. So that's why I was able to wear it to work. So, and what about from their just normal range? I'll go first actually with the normal range. So I got another pair of their Surge half tights, the 8-inch ones, and the last time Lululemon sent us some gear, I managed to get the same pair of tights. So I requested these ones again because they have been the best tight that I've ever owned. I don't know when we get these early this year or late last year, and I've pretty much worn them for every single long run this year. I raced in them at the Gold Coast, so to have another pair is awesome. The thing I love about these, the side pockets. So every brand of short that I've ever had before, yes, they have gel pockets, but they're not always the easiest to access. So they're either inside your short, and you sometimes they're a bit tight up against your leg, so you got to try and pull the short away to get it out. Whereas these ones, the pockets are actually on the outside. There's one on each side. I can fit 3 gels on each side. So six gels I can carry on me, and I can get them out quite easily. There's another little zip pocket as well. And just the material, when I put these on, I actually feel like I'm not wearing really anything because the fabric is just so thin. Obviously, they got the undie liner in them, so you don't wear undies with them, but I feel like I'm wearing nothing. So, as I said, they're the best tight I've ever owned and will be my go-to race tight if I ever race again. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, they are good. I went for the 4-inch version of the 6-inch that I've got. Just coming into summer, I don't like wearing big shorts. I like small shorts. So 4-inch with that liner that they use there, don't have to get the body glide out when you got that on, and can put your phone in the back still. So it covers me, but just with a little less coverage.
Yep. And I heard you went down to the Lululemon, the big dogs down there in Melbourne, Moose? They give you anything else?
Oh, not really. I had a conference a couple of weeks ago, and we were just a few doors up, and one of my friends, Em, she works there now, and she bagged up a bunch of cool shit, and I am pretty happy about it, actually. I'm sitting there in a pair of like joggers, I guess you'd call them. They're like Lululemon, known for their pants and tights. So this is like a running pant, but I mean, I wear it everywhere. Got a little puffer vest, got another pair of bright pink, I think they're the 6-inch shorts, got a sleeveless top, got a hoodie that I wore all around on my holiday. Yeah, I was looked after. And it just looks like it's the right cut. There is a big difference between a good cut and a poor cut.
Yeah. And also just the quality of the materials. But as you said earlier on, like traditionally Lululemon, like if you told me 5 years ago that my favorite running type would be Lululemon, like I wouldn't have believed you. But they're really bridging that gap from, I guess, I used to always see them as more of a sort of a yoga-y type sort of brand, but they've really sort of transitioned well into this running space.
Yeah, they're going after running big time. And I think you're going to see some of that play out up the front of races shortly as well. They want to be known, they want to be credible, and they're going to support some athletes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again to Lululemon. If you want to catch their range, just go to lululemon.com.au. All right. Listener question. This is a good one, I reckon. Not that Jess ever has any bad marathons, but the question is, best way to accept and move forward after a disappointing race, in brackets, marathon. Do you find one in the future? Work out what went wrong and focus on that after recovery, etc. So that question comes in from Sydney. I like it because we're on here talking about, how to best prepare for it, but we don't do too much about, all right, if it's not your day, how do you bounce back from it not being your day?
Well, let's start by asking Jess, what is the worst running race experience you've had and how did you get over it?
Yeah, it was actually the Zatopek 10 in 2018. I remember it so clearly. I had run a few marathons that year, with the last one being in Toronto in late October. And I got back to Australia and didn't plan to run Zatopek, and then sort of got back into training, did a bit of track work and thought, things are feeling all right. And with a bit of encouragement was like, I'm going to do it. And I flew over on the day of the race because I had a work commitment in Adelaide earlier that day, lined up, and by 5K, I just had nothing in my legs, and I ended up not finishing the race. And I just remember pulling off and, being shattered. And I think Tamsin was there and trying to, console me and say it was all okay, but I was just so disappointed in myself for not finishing that race. I'm just trying to think about, the best way to accept it, I think it's particularly hard if it's a marathon that goes wrong, because you can't just back up and do one, a month later usually. You do have to respect the recovery from it. But I think there's just always so much to learn from races, whether they go well or whether they go wrong. So you do need to just see it as an opportunity to set yourself up better for the next race. And I'm still not really sure what I learnt from that track race, other than just needing to respect preparation. And I think, if a marathon went wrong, I think you'd look at your preparation and then your tactics on the day and your fueling and get a few points together that you want to work on for next time, and give yourself the time off that you need, but then eventually set yourself a new goal and just get excited about it and know that you'll be stronger, because you're not going to make those same mistakes again.
Jess, have you done much of this sort of stuff with a sports psych at all? Like, so the only poor race I can think of you having like recently, which was probably like Gold Coast half, like especially given then, you came off like Launceston, which was great, and then you went to Gold Coast, and then to bounce back the way you did for the Com Games. Like, did you do anything with the sports psych about like bouncing back from a poor race or?
I did. So in the Gold Coast half and actually the Melbourne half as well, I really struggled after about 14-ish Ks, and it was a breathing issue, and I haven't been able to really work out what the cause is. I had a bit of trouble when I was a young girl running cross country. It doesn't really fit with asthma because it's when I'm breathing in. But the Gold Coast half and the Melbourne half were some of my hardest races this year because I just was really wheezing and battled to the finish line. And it could be psychological as well. And that was what, not knowing what caused it, scared me going into Birmingham, but also going into New York. Like, I try to go into the race, having no doubt that everything will go well. But this breathing thing, when it kicks in, I have absolutely no control over it and haven't worked out a way when it comes on to stop it. So I was obviously, nervous before Birmingham. I spoke to a sports psych about it, and we basically came up with a plan that the only way I'd been able to get rid of it was to stop. So I'd pull off, stop, walk for a bit and get going again. I didn't work with a sports psychologist between Melbourne Marathon and New York. I just had to try and block it out and hope that it wouldn't happen in the run. But fortunately, it's never happened in a marathon. I think it's the intensity or sort of running sub 320s or something for over 12 Ks. It sort of tends to be around that 50-minute mark. I've had this issue. So that's definitely been one that I've talked to a sports psychologist about to just come up with some strategies. Also talking to my sports doctor as well to see whether it's something more mechanical.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Moose? Yeah. How do you move forward after a disappointing race?
I'm pretty analytical about stuff if it means a lot to me. If I have a poor race and it's not significant, I don't even really think about it. I just don't care too much. Because most of my racing that I care about is marathoning, it's almost all that I care about. It doesn't affect me too much if, I have a shit one. Sometimes I wonder what happened. Sometimes I wonder if I could have done something different on the day. But most of the time, I sort of get through and just start doing a workout. Whenever the next workout is, I just look forward to doing that again. But if it's a marathon that goes bad, it is different, and because we care about it more. Like, I'd say the three of us here probably consider the marathon our pet event, and it takes a long time to build for one, and there's a lot of emotion and sacrifice, commitment that goes in, which is great if you have a good day and it's like the glory's there. But if you don't and you're forced to step off, or you have a blow up and you jog it in and you're not happy with how things went, it does crush you. And it crushes you because you know it's happening at the time, but afterwards it is you just kind of want to disappear. You just want to kind of hide, and it's embarrassing. I always get embarrassed when I had a shit one because I don't know why, but I feel like
it's funny because at the time you feel like everyone, like the spotlight's on you and everyone's seen it and everyone knows. But when you kind of look back later on, you realise, it is just sort of you and your immediate circle who probably are thinking about it the next day. Everyone else moves on, but it's hard to feel like that in the moment.
Very true. Yeah. That's a good point.
I love, I've had one really bad one, and it was really bad because I was so fit. And I got a niggle a few weeks out, and it kind of derailed me. And then Brady paced me for this. It was Melbourne Marathon. Can't remember what year, 2014 maybe. And he took me through about halfway and just on 70 minutes, like spot on, I reckon. And I was trying to run 2:20, and I knew at that point it wasn't happening. But I persisted anyway, and it was shit. I blew up and jogged in and ran 2:27, just had a shocker. And I remember afterwards just like it did hit me pretty hard. And I think it's good to get hit hard. Like it means that you care. And you've got to embrace, like you've got to just accept, like if you're going to invest that much emotion into an event like this, it goes both ways. Like if I didn't care about the running, if I didn't invest so much of my own life into training and wanting and committing to it, then I'm not going to get the big ups that come with it. So like,
and when you're hurting that much and really struggling, you mentally, like the discipline and, you know, the places you have to go to keep yourself going, it makes you feel afterwards that you can kind of get through anything. Like, you know, in future races that when it gets tough, you've got the capacity to kind of get through a lot of hurt.
You learn about yourself, don't you? Like even though I ran 2:27, I was proud at the finish line that I didn't stop running, and that was something that I took away. I was bitterly disappointed with the result, but I was proud at a certain point where I'm like, this is fucked. Why would I bother finishing this off? And I just kept going, and I thought, you know what, that was my little win at the end of the day. That was the bit that I take away from the race and go, yeah, you're not, like, you blew up, you did some dumb shit. It was a bad race, but you're not a pussy. Like, you can't call me a pussy after that one. And I remember thinking, a month ago, you were in the best shape of your life. So there's that to look forward to again. Yeah.
Good answers. The only couple of things I'll have to add is so many people will bomb out of the marathon and go, oh, that 12 weeks I did was such a waste of time. But you got to remember that work that you did doesn't just leave you and will actually set you up well for another crack. Like, it may not be a crack in 12 weeks time, but in 24 weeks time, like the work that you've done for that marathon block still stays with you for quite a while. Another thing is, if you find enjoyment in the process, I think it's much easier to accept a poor marathon because you've actually still enjoyed training for it and, you know, enjoy running. Whereas if you're only doing it for the success, it's much harder, I guess, to bounce back. And my last one is probably just put it into perspective. And this is probably one thing, and it's a question for you, and you, like both of you actually, but since I became a parent, like running has become like a lot more insignificant for me, probably to the detriment of my running, because it just doesn't seem that important to what it used to be. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. And like, I know you shared some of, like, you know, your mum's health troubles earlier in the year, Moose, but I think that really puts things in perspective too. Like, some of the things that my dad's been dealing with his treatment, I'm just like, far out. Running a marathon's nothing. Like, it is very temporary compared to some of the health issues that people work through.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, no, it is. And I think you can, like, do those things come to you in the back half of New York? Like, is that something that pops in your mind?
Yeah, no, definitely. They do.
Good answer. I reckon we nailed that. I didn't think we'd go for that long on that question, but that was good. Thanks, Sydney, for that question. Moose on the loose.
Yeah. So, Brad, you've got one here. Why don't you go first?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of this on Facebook, and a few people have sent it into our Instagram account as well, about some athletes in Queensland being DQ'd for running in super shoes at the state 5K champs on the track. And I believe that most of the athletes that were being DQ'd were like masters athletes. And like, I feel like we've gone back, 18 months when, you know, this was a thing where the rules were brought in that you couldn't wear super shoes on the track, but we just got to let it go. Like, yeah, if you're competing for a state medal or you want to break a record, then you need to be in the right shoes. But for everybody else, just let them run. Like, who cares? Yeah,
it needs, like, it just has to be just common sense. Like you said, first division races, okay, like maybe we should just have people wear spikes in the first division race. After that, who cares? Like you said, if someone's trying to break a record, make sure they're in spikes. If someone's running a Zatopek qualifier, World Champs qualifier, whatever, have them in spikes. Outside of that, let's just forget about this, please.
Yeah, because you just ruin the sport. Like people just won't want to come if they bust their ass for 5K and then they go up to the canteen where they, back in the day they used to always post the results close to the canteen on the wall. You're going, oh, what was my official time? Oh, DQ. Why did I get DQ'd? Oh, my shoes. Oh, well, stuff this. I'm not coming back next week. Find something else to do.
Everything that's wrong with our sport right there. It's like in little athletics when they used to not let kids run because they had a logo on their apparel. So say they wore a pair of shorts or something and it had a Nike swoosh or an ASICS symbol. If it wasn't, they would have to either tape it up or they weren't allowed to run because they weren't a sponsor. It's some bullshit. All right, so my one, I've been listening to podcasts for a long time now, and a lot of different podcasts that have crept through their headphones. Lately, it's still running podcasts. It's some dog stuff, of course. I won't talk about the dog stuff, don't worry. And the other thing is crime podcasts. I love crime podcasts still. And there's one way to ruin a good podcast. It's when you get a guest on, but then you talk about yourself and you give your own anecdotes the entire time. Fucking drives me insane. Like, you've gone out of your way to get a prestigious, sought-after guest on your show, yet you're going to just talk to them about your own running or your own bloody detective work or what your own thoughts on dog training or dog tools or whatever. Like, just get them on, let them speak, just listen, ask a few questions. Fuck, it's so disrespectful too. And I can hear it in the guest's voice. I'm like, why did you get me on for you just to rant about your own shit? This is a waste of my time. It's very bad in one particular podcast I listen to on rotation, a running one, and it drives me nuts. But there's also, then once I started hearing that, I could see a pattern in all the other podcasts I listened to. And now I think about it so much, I have to stop listening. Yeah. Now
that you've said that, Moose, I feel bad that we went through our training weeks after we had Jess here. We should have just stopped it after New York.
Yeah. Well, I am the Bogong the Hotham course record holder.
Great run, that one. I remember it was cancelled one year when I was up in Falls because of the weather.
Mate, it's cancelled 9 out of 10 years. That's why I've still got the record.
I won the Steve Prefontaine Memorial Run, Moose, and
don't worry.
Got my photo in the Run for Your Life magazine.
Oh, yeah. I reckon I saw you. Did you used to wear a black Run for Your Life singlet?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Yes, I remember seeing pictures of you back in the day.
Yeah, I had the mow. I had some frosted tips to try and have my hair like Pre. Yeah.
I still have a very big pile of Run for Your Life magazines stored away somewhere. It'll be fun to pull out in another 10 years.
Were you ever one of those
Addy runners?
You were
I was an Addy runner.
I remember that. I was going to say, you were an Addy runner.
Yeah.
And Lara Tamsit.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Tim Rowe.
Yeah.
Was he an Addy runner? There was a guy from Grant Page.
Yeah, I think he was, yeah.
Yeah.
Dewey Yoa, maybe?
Oh, yeah. He was definitely Adidas, yeah.
Yeah.
Could have been Addy runner.
Wow. It's taking me back.
How embarrassing that we know all the Addy runners. But also,
it's because of that magazine.
It shows that it obviously worked though, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Tamara Carvoth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, one more. I've got it for you. Melanie Vernon. Oh, what's it?
Yes, Melinda.
Yeah.
Melinda Vernon.
Yeah.
Did you got mentioned Tara Palm as well?
Oh, yes, Tara. She was one of the first ones.
Yeah. We've done pretty well there to rattle them all off.
So I inherited a running magazine collection that goes back to I think it's the early 80s, and it's pretty much every Runner's World that's come out since the early 80s to now. Oh, well, no, it stopped getting collected, I reckon, maybe 3 years ago. And all the Run for Your Lives, all the Runner's World, track and field times, it's ridiculous. It's like 8 big storage tubs worth. So I had to find an image the other day of Benita Willis. It was a Nike ad. So after she won World Cross, Nike put an ad in the, I think it was Australian Runners World, and they made their own ad up where it was, they changed the Nike logo. Oh, what was it? Shit. I've got to find it actually, sorry. It's worth it. And the guy that was in charge of it from Nike, he listens to the podcast. Geez, let me just pull this up. So, Daniel Hopkins, he actually worked for Nike at the time. He was like an advertising guy, and he made up a ad, and it was, instead of Nike, it was Crikey. She's beaten the Africans, in the same font as Nike. And it ran, and it says, "Congratulations, Benita Johnson, IAAF World Cross Country Champ."
That's when you know you've made it.
Yeah, and because they airbrushed New Balance off the uniform, they were the sponsor, and so he had to write an official apology because they were in the process of suing Nike because of it. Yeah, it's so cool. Anyway, I had to go. I was going to put that image on a wall in our store. The same that, with the Crikey and that. I don't think I'd be able to do it anymore. I never. Something happened and something came up, but I haven't done it yet. But I had to go search. There's no image of this anywhere on the internet, and the only way I could get it was to go back through the magazine, and I trawled through about 10 different magazines because I knew the year and I knew the around the date that it would come out, and yeah, it was pretty special. I'll post it in our group, and Brady can do something with it.
All right, cool.
I'll send it to you, Jess, so you can see.
That'd be awesome.
All right, well, that wraps up another week. What do you got coming up, Jess?
Yeah, not much. It's kind of fun not having a training routine. I think I'll just go for some swims and just enjoy, not having to get out for those afternoon runs more than anything. I do like to be active in the mornings, but it's just in a marathon prep, the grind of getting out at the end of the day as well that I find tough. So it'll be nice not to have to worry about that.
And will we see you on the track over summer? World Cross Country Trials? Potentially,
yeah. The next sort of 6 weeks, if anything, I'd love to be able to help Caitlin Adams out a bit as she's preparing for her races. So just jump in and do parts of sessions. I don't really have any plans for the rest of this year, but yeah, run at Strumlow could be good.
So World Cross is on the radar?
I don't really I haven't sat down with Adam yet and really planned things out. I've actually not done the 10K cross. The last time I did it, it was 8K. So I think I'd prefer the 10.
And what about you, Moose? What's coming up? Your little conference?
Yeah, I got that this week. So that'll be in Melbourne late in the week. So I'll be running around the city of Melbourne on Thursday and Friday.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And anything to report from the running, any races planned next couple of weeks?
I'm going to have to look at a calendar. Maybe I'll go do a park run in Torquay. I've never done the Torquay park run.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So we've got Road to Valencia coming up. I think the boys are recording on Wednesday, so that'll be episode 6. So tune in to hear how Brady and Toby's 3x7K session went in Moama on Sunday. We've got the Vic 5K this Thursday, and Point to Pinnacle is also on Sunday. So that's, I guess, what we'll be reporting on next week. But thanks so much, Jess, for giving up your time again. It's very generous of you. And, you add so much to the show every time you come on, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, Jess. Thank you.
All right. And Moose, we'll be back next week with, we're not sure yet, we need to find a guest host. We'll find one.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks again. Chat
See
soon.
ya.
Bye.
Hey.
Lululemon supports you while you support Movember. Discover their Movember collection at lululemon.com.au.